Hey everybody, welcome back to One Mic, and today I'm here to talk about Season 1, Episode 5 of FX's Alien Earth, entitled In Space, No One. So, this episode takes us back to Morrow's ship from the very start of the series and gives us the backstory on what happened. And if you go back to my video for Episodes 1 and 2, I said I was very excited to learn about the events that took place on the ship prior to the start of Episode 1. Well, unfortunately for me, I didn't realize that I'd already seen the backstory of what happened with Morrow when I watched the original Alien movie. Further, I rewatched the original Alien film the same day that this episode dropped. So, the shameless mimicking of the original film stood out to me even more because I had just watched it earlier in that same day. And right away, this episode sets the tone that it's going to walk in the footsteps of the original film. So Morrow is awakened from cryosleep and learns that there's been a fire and the two crew members got face huggers hugging their faces. And they go through the same steps as the original film, like debating quarantine, learning that the aliens have acid blood, debating whether or not to freeze them. You even got an alien bursting out of someone's body. Like, all the same beats are there. Even down to the discovering of a saboteur. It's like ripped right from the original film. Like, the only real reveal with that specific piece is Boy Cavalier's involvement. But instead of building tension, it feels like the episode is marking off things on a checklist, same moves, none of the suspense. And I'm going to do a new retro reviews video where I talk about the original film. So I don't want to go too much in depth right now, but the original film did everything perfectly to build tension and keep the audience engaged. And I'm talking about the sound and through the lens of sound, I'm talking about the absence of sound, how the spaceship felt cavernous and like a vacuum, and you're only hearing, boots stepping on metal floors or just old ship creaking sounds. The film's score was amazing. The original film did a ton with lighting in regard to what it didn't light. Everything hidden in the shadows. And I get, to a degree, a lot of that, and not even to a degree, probably most of that is because they just didn't have a budget. So they wanted to mask a lot of the things that would, reveal what's really going on. You might be able to tell a little bit easier that the alien is a guy in a suit if it's well lit. But it worked to their advantage because when you can't see, that makes the tension higher. It makes the suspense higher because you're wondering, what's going to happen, what can come around the corner, anything like that. Everything that film did well to build tension is absent from this episode. Further, the show as a whole up to this point has done a great job of the very same things that I just mentioned that the film did well. But when you follow step by step the blueprint of a classic film, the mystery is gone, and thereby so is the tension. I already felt like for the first 30 minutes that I had already been here. I'd already been through all of this. Even right down to the mess hall space that the episode opened up at. It looked the same as the movie. I'm like, wait, am I watching the movie now? Is this the same ship? And obviously it can't be the same ship. But all that to say, when you feel like you've already been here before, where's the tension going to come from, right? And a lot of the techniques the original film used and that the show has used well up to this point, again, were conspicuously absent from this episode in favor of tickling our nostalgia itch for an hour. So let's go over what happened on Morrow's ship, and then I can further elaborate on why this episode didn't work for me. And I want to stress the didn't work for me part. I know people are probably going to come for me in the comments because I could see why a lot of people would love this episode. I feel like I would have loved this episode if I had watched the movie the next day or a few years ago. But the fact that I watched the movie earlier in that same day, and then to have the show for the first half hour go beat for beat with the movie, I mean, if you guys want to come for me in the comments because you love this episode, that's fine. I'm not saying it's a bad episode. I'm just saying for these reasons, it didn't work for me. So once Morrow was awakened and informed of the situation, we learned that the fire fried their navigation systems. And so that means they're no longer a spaceship headed to Earth. They're a missile. Morrow correctly assesses how suspiciously convenient it is that the fire and then later an explosion have crippled the very systems that they need in order to make it home. The navigation, the explosion messed up the fuel, so they're going to run out of that. And one of the crew members with the face hugger on, who was the former captain, he's now dead. And now the acting captain, is a crew member named Zaveri. Noah Hawley must be a big fan of this actress. She was also in the most recent season of Fargo. And I found her underwhelming in Fargo, and I found her again underwhelming in this episode. I can't really pinpoint what it is, but it's a very it almost feels like she's just reading from the page most of the time. And I don't want to shit on somebody's performance, especially, I know I can't do it, but I don't know that, but I've never tried, but I don't know. I've just found her very underwhelming on both shows. But Morrow then spends the rest of the episode trying to figure out who is sabotaging the ship, and thus he's sabotaging his mission to get the specimens back to Earth. We do get a bit of new information about Morrow, though. We learned that his daughter died in a house fire while he was in space. I think it says she was 19. And we also learned that his dedication to Yutani is because her grandmother took him in as a kid. His dynamic with Zaveri has potential, especially when he tried to blackmail her for having sex with one of the other crew members. But that felt so inconsequential to everything else. It just played out like a soap opera subplot rather than an important piece of a tense sci-fi thriller. Then you got the creepy guy Tang. He's watching a woman in cryo sleep, which is unsettling. But again, it felt pointless. It felt like it wasn't going anywhere. It just felt again, kind of like a soap opera subplot. Hey, look, this guy's kind of creepy. He's dead by the end of the episode. None of that mattered. I don't know. It just felt like none of this it felt like when they tried to do something different, it didn't work because it didn't have any stakes to it, at least with those specific things. There is some stuff that I like that I'm going to get to in a minute. But then there's this other really dumb moment where Zaveri is hiding around the corner from the xenomorph. And she's around the corner. The thing's behind her, walking toward her. And right before it hits the corner, she jumps out in front of it, right in its line of vision, and then tries to go up a ladder. And I was just sitting there what the fuck's even happening right now? What was the point of hiding if you're going to show yourself at the worst possible moment and then take the most inconvenient escape route? But I guess again, by that point, I was being picky because I was already irritated with how I had spent so much time feeling like I was watching the movie again, but with none of the things that made the movie good. It's you have, today, movies have these big budgets and they want you to see what they spent on costumes, makeup, production design, the set, the special effects or whatever. They want you to see all the money that they put into this. And when you can see everything, a lot of the tension goes away when you talk about a horror film or TV show in this case. But to this episode's credit, the crew does get picked off in new ways that are different from the film. I appreciated that. I like the one with the worm-like alien that kind of that spit those alien embryos into that woman's water. And then I liked how they subverted the expectation by having a different crew member drink it than the woman whose water it was. They tried to put a unique twist on the acid blood by having those ticks that were on his organs release a toxin rather than acid blood. But that's basically the fraternal twin of acid blood. It's conceptually the same idea. If you try to remove it, it's going to kill you. Same thing. But I did appreciate some of the not changes, because I don't want to say they made changes, but some of the additions that they had, everything they did with the eyeball alien, I thought was good. I like how it tried to warn the one for whatever reason. Just the way they picked off the crew members was different, but again, conceptually, it was the same thing. The same thing happened in the movie. They picked off the crew members individually, and then one person was left, and that's what it was. But Morrow ultimately figures out who the saboteur is. It's this guy named Petrovich. And Petrovich tries to kill Morrow as he's attempting to escape. But Morrow kills Petrovich in a way that is fitting for an episode that I've said feels like it wants to be a carbon copy of something else the whole time. He turns his cyborg arm into a big giant blade and impales Petrovich with that like he's the T-1000 from Terminator 2. And by that point, again, maybe I was just nitpicking and irritated, but I was just ticking off how much this episode leaned on nostalgia and like familiar sci-fi tropes instead of originality. And again, not saying it wasn't original, but just outside of the parts, the small parts that were original, like releasing toxins rather than acid, or the creative ways that it picked off the crew. But at the same time, those things are still part of the major beats of the movie. The movie featured the crew getting picked off, and the movie featured if you do this to the alien, it's going to kill you thing. So it's like, even the little bit that felt original here was still just a different version of the same thing from the movie. And then we end episode 5, this one, where episode 1 started with Morrow, the last survivor, reporting in. He's sealing the door, and then he leaves Zaveri to die. And it should feel chilling, but instead, it was a predictable ending because the whole rest of the episode had gone just like the movie. And then we already knew that Morrow, that the thing was going to end with Morrow being the last person. So again, it was an episode that it completely and entirely lacked any sort of suspense because everything was just like the movie, and it was predictable. It was familiar. And there was just no tension or very little creativity. And those are the things that made the original film work. So yeah, man, I mean, this was disappointing for me. Nostalgia can work if you build on it, using it creatively to subvert expectations. But here, it just replaced suspense with repetition. And it just didn't work for me. Very little felt fresh or unique. No real sense of danger because we know where the story is going and we've already seen it before. It was just a pale shadow of the original film's brilliance. So I know y'all probably gonna come for me. I understand why a lot of y'all might have liked this episode. Like I said, I probably would have liked it if I had watched the movie tomorrow. But I'm gonna ask anyway, or I'm gonna say anyway. Let me know what you thought in the comments. Like the channel, subscribe, share to your social media, join the Discord, and until next time, peace.